What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Comment Writers. We are a Kamen Rider review podcast. Today on the show, we're going to talk about Kamen Rider gavv, episode 26. I'm your host, Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Toby Tobes. How's it going, Toby?
Happy late daylight savings time day. Woo!
Dude, having a child and daylight savings time is so frustrating. It has been frustrating for the past 5 years because it's like, no one can tell a baby that the time change happened and that they should sleep longer, right? Like, that's not a thing that you can do. And then as the kid gets older, it's like it still sort of is that same way. It's like their body clock's going to wake them up at the same time, but it's an hour too early. Or it's an hour too late, depending on what time of the year. And it's just so frustrating. And now apparently it's spread to the whole family because this morning...
You're all grumpy now?
Well, this morning we were supposed to wake up and none of us woke up. And we all slept for like 90 minutes longer than we were supposed to today because we were just all thrown off from all the time change.
So I was thinking about it when I woke up the morning after the change, so Sunday morning. So I was thinking about the way that life works now versus 10, 15, 20 years ago. And it's kind of like a weird mind exercise, I guess we'll call it, or like a weird thing that happened to pop in my head. So like 20 years ago, when you're an older person, like mainly like me, kind of like Josh, like you would know daylight savings one way or the other was coming up. You would go to bed, and if you didn't change your clocks, or if you manually changed your clocks, you're already in the mindset of, okay, it's a different time now. But if you did not preemptively change your clocks, you'd go to bed at like 10, 11, whatever, wake up at 4, and then go, wait, so it's really 3 or it's really 5, or you have to like do the math real quick and figure out which direction to go. Or I feel like if you're manually changing the night before, you're already compensating and you changed the clocks. But I thought about this year, for whatever reason, extra, and the fact that like almost every clock that is in people's lives at this point, like cell phones, normal alarm clocks are usually like radio satellite tied now and they just change. It seems like a much more natural transition for me as a human to go to bed, wake up, and the clock is just right. It just feels like it just feels like the right time. So I think this was actually like the most non-jarring one for me, where I woke up and I was like, oh, it's 7 o'clock. Okay, whatever, I'll get up, and no big deal.
First of all, my family was never a change clocks the night before family. It was very indicative of our preparedness levels for most things, but it was a wake up the next day, oh, right, the time changed, and then you'd spend the next week stumbling over new clocks in your house that you hadn't changed yet. You'd change them then. But yeah, I think the striking thing for me with that, with you bringing that up, is how many of the clocks in my life have gone away in favor of just, I have a phone. Like, growing up, we had clocks all over the house. Like, there was, like, at least, an analog clock probably in every room. And, you got them on the microwave and on the oven and whatever. They're all over the place, right? And now it's like, you have your alarm clock and all this stuff. Now it's just like, well, I have a phone. We haven't really hung any clocks in this house. So there's the phone, there's the oven, and there's the microwave. Those are the kind of 3 clocks in my life. And I guess the one in my car, but I think that would be maybe automatically changed. So yeah, you're right. You're like, most of them automatically switch, and now most of them are also just my phone anyway. So,
and like the important ones switch, like going downstairs later that morning and being like, oh, I have to change the oven. It doesn't feel as jarring because it just feels like having to adjust the clock on the oven. I think it's distinctly the waking up and the clock is just right without you having to interact with it anymore, I think is like the key win for me, at least in my brain, of like the sleep pattern and adjustment.
Do you ever worry that it didn't work though? Like, and you have no way of checking that because all the clocks that are in your life did change, but it's like, but what if they didn't? Do you ever worry about that? Like, what if it didn't actually happen?
I might next year. That's a rabbit hole my brain didn't go down yet, but that's a good one.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's a fun worry to have. Just like, oh, what? It's sort of the Apple problem, where like, oh, it always just works until it doesn't just work, and then I have no way of knowing how to fix it from just not working. It's kind of like that, where it's like, well, if it all just works, but then what if it just didn't work, and then do I have to get out the stones so I can create a sundial? Like, what are we doing? How do I tell what time it is?
some of the states, and I know there's like also countries too that don't celebrate any daylight switching. I think they're actually on like they have the right idea because there's really no farmers. Like I know there's still farmers, but this was like a whole farming thing, and there's no farmers like that anymore. Let's forget about time adjustments. Let's just all do the same time. It's like Swatch time, whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah,
the dumb internet one.
Swatch internet time. That's what we should all be on. Everyone should meet at a certain beat. Because that's what Swatch internet time is. It's just the number of beats increases as the day goes on, and then eventually it resets back to 0. So like you can say like it's like 300 beats, and that's a specific time.
It's especially crazy too. Like there's all sorts of medical studies and stuff, and even like it fucks nature up every time, which is the craziest part to me. But it makes sense because they don't know the time switch. But they're like humans having to adjust that 1 hour out of nowhere. Like throws some people off into like a freaking tailspin for weeks. And I'm glad it never affected me that bad. But it's crazy how much it actually affects people.
Yeah, totally. So back to Swatch internet time. 1,000, the day is divided into 1,000 beats, and a beat is equivalent to 1 minute and 26.4 seconds. It's currently 63.11 beats right now.
That's not that bad. That seems okay.
Yeah, and how cool would that be? It's like, hey, what time are you gonna get on Fortnite tonight? About 75 beats. All right, I'll see you around then. Like, that's great. That's perfect.
Wait, it maxed out 100 or 1,000?
1,000.
How are we only at 63? It's like 8:30.
Yeah, but because our time doesn't matter, remember? So it's the world time, and it starts at I think Switzerland because Swatch made it.
I was gonna say no, yeah. I mean, it's definitely across. It's definitely the other half of the world for us.
Yeah,
that makes more sense. It's like Japan time, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. So yeah, it's only 63 because it doesn't map to American time. But that's the whole point. Is that it doesn't have to.
So, for us to hit 1,000, like if it's 8:30 from me now, 1,000 would probably actually be like 4:00 in the morning. Then is that what you're telling me?
Like it would be whatever. It'd be about an hour ago, about an hour and a half ago.
Okay, so like if it flips over like what we would consider midday, like 7:00 at night for me would actually be like the zero Swiss beats, and we go from there. I gotcha.
Yeah.
It would feel weird waking up at like 700 in the morning and going to bed at like 30 at night, but I guess that kind of works.
Which that's your argument for daylight savings, right? Like, because everyone could do that. Like, changing the time for farmers. Like, they could just decide to get up earlier or get up later and follow the sun and not follow the clock. But the daylight savings time just makes it so the time, like, they're always getting up at the same hour, even though, like, the sun's changing, right?
Yeah.
So that's your argument, is, like, you don't want to get up at 4 p.m. just because the sun happens to come up at 4 p.m. And people just have to get over that.
Down with farms, up with lab food. That's a nice takeaway.
Dude, so much of my like actual like, so like I'm a computer programmer, and time zones fuck up programming so much. Like, the fact that time zones exist is just literally a constant problem in software. So yeah, let's get rid of it.
Yeah, down with time.
Speaking of crazy things that other countries have invented, Toby, my daughter has been watching, so she's into like doctor stuff a lot, and so her mom has been watching this show called The Pit for a little bit, and The Pit is a doctor show, but it's not for kids at all. It's pretty adult,
as I feel like most doctor shows wouldn't be, but go on.
Yeah. So my kid knows that that her mom is watching this show, but has never really seen it. And the other day, she decided to come back downstairs after she got put to bed and stand behind her mother quietly while her mom watched the show so she could see some of the show. So, of course, mom screams when she finally sees her there. It's this whole big thing because she was scared. So we've solved that problem. But then it became like, okay, well, this is not a doctor show that you can watch, but we can find a doctor show that you can watch. So she didn't want to watch like Doc McStuffins or our cartoon or anything. So we were trying to figure out like what doctor show she could watch that would be for kids, but is like live action. We found this show called Operation Ouch. It's a British show that has been around for a very long time. Like they've done, I think like 9 or 10 seasons, and I think maybe like a spin-off show as well, where it's like two doctors, and it's kind of like what's his name, the scientist. It's sort of like Bill Nye, but for doctors, where it's like presenters and they'll talk to patients and they'll do little experiments and stuff like that, but it's all doctor focused. And two things about this. First of all, it's a great little show. It's very cute and she loves it. But they do things different apparently over on British TV, because they will not shy away from like kids getting injured on the show. And they will follow these kids. Like a kid will come in and be like, yeah, I walked out in front of a car and I got hit by a car and I think my arm's broken. And they'll be like, oh, that's a bummer. And they'll show the kid's arm and it'll be like all jagged and like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that sucker's broken. And they'll do the x-ray and the kid will have a broken arm. And then they do the surgeries, Toby, and they actually show some of the like actual like bloody cuts and stuff and like the actual mid-surgery images. And before they do it, again, this is a kid's show, they say, get ready for a gross alert. And they give the kids a second to like cover their eyes if they want to. And then they show the gross thing. So now my kid loves the gross alerts and really wants to see the gross things in the show.
Why?
But
okay,
it's crazy.
So she wants to see it. Because I mean, like I think it was last week or the week before. You mentioned how you keep putting your child into scary rabbit holes of life. Yeah. And now you're just like, hey, watch this kid surgery show. You're not a kid. You're not going to think too much about this.
Weirdly, she's always kind of been into like she likes seeing the boo-boos and like seeing the cuts and stuff like that. And like anytime I've ever like gotten an injury or a cut or something, like she's loved having to like help me and get the Band-Aid and stuff. So like she's very into that kind of stuff. So I wasn't really worried about that particular vibe that she wouldn't like, but obviously I didn't know how gross and graphic it was going to be going in, because I was thinking kids show, it's probably pretty tame, and there's definitely been some things that I have had to be like, oh, I can't watch this. But
why don't you decide to go like Disney remake of Doogie Howser, like an
that
actual
all would have been
doctor show? Like,
you know what? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. Now that you bring it up, the other thing about the show, because it's British. They keep telling the kids to call 999 for emergencies, and we keep having to stop and be like, yeah, it's 911 here. You don't call 999. It won't save us. So we're pretty sure when we have a medical emergency of some kind, the kid's going to call the wrong number and it's all going to go south.
That'd be funny though, in the fact it's going to go south. If you're like, honey, call the doctor quick. I fell over my Pokemon cards and I can't move. And she's like, you just hear her slamming 99999, and then it's just some weird operator picks up, and
yeah,
laughs would be had by all. That actually sounds like it'd be a good thing.
Yeah, I would deserve the death that I received, I think, from that for sure. But yeah, that show, it's just continually each episode very surprised at the horrific things that they show us. And, you know, equally hilarious about how much my daughter's very into it. Can't look at the Green Goblin, we found out last week, but we'll look at, teeth shoved into someone's face and then having to pull them out.
That sounds awesome.
Excuse me. I had a great transition, but then I almost died there and swallowed my own spit.
Everyone call 999. It's like the Tinkerbell clap to make Josh live thing. We can save him if we all do this together. Actually, no, because some people actually would be in Britain. So I guess like if we have viewers that are or listeners or whatever you do when you interact with a podcast, I guess that is true. Like someone could actually call for help as long as our country span is wide enough.
Yeah, that's true. Only call the wrong emergency number for your country as a joke for our podcast. So, you know, if you're in Britain, call 911. If you're in the US, call 999. You can always probably just dial 666 wherever you're at, and that'll work out fine, I think. Just make sure it's not the real one, because we wouldn't want you to get in trouble.
Did you ever call actual 911?
My mom did one time, and I always thought this was unhinged, and it worked out shockingly well for her. But I was a kid, and they wanted to. So my mom had heard that my grandparents didn't have a cell phone at the time, because this was like pretty early in cell phones existing. And they were going to travel, and my mom had heard that an old cell phone that wasn't in use anymore would still let you call 911 on it. If you had to use it, right? It's the only thing it would work for.
Pretty sure that's still a thing, but yeah, or at least I always heard that too. So.
Yeah, I'm sure it probably is still a thing. It's probably like a legal thing. So she'd heard that, but wasn't sure if it was true or not, and wanted to send her old cell phone with my grandparents when they were going on a trip. So to confirm it, you don't really have like an easy way to confirm it anywhere else. She called 911 on the old phone just to see if it would work. Which again, for like a young child watching his mom do this and knowing like you only call 911 in an emergency, this was shocking. But yeah, she called, and like the operator was like, "What's your emergency?" She explained like, "Oh, I was just testing this old cell phone to make sure that this worked, and that's all I needed. Thank you." And they hung up, and it was fine. But that's the only time I've ever, I think, called 911 or been around someone who called 911.
So I've purposely called twice, and I accidentally called once. So the purposeful time, one of the times I'm going to save for like a month or so away, because it's actually a full story we're going to share to celebrate the anniversary of. One was a real life thing, which we don't need to get or one was like a family real life thing. We don't need to get into that one. But the one time I never realized or thought about the fact, this is the fun third time. I never realized that a lot of phones have like an emergency SOS maneuver.
Oh yeah.
Where if you're not like, if you can't pull your phone out, but you need to call 911 or your localized emergency service, you can just do like a button combination on your phone, and it will call 911 automatically. And the one thing that we're always taught here, I'm sure it's most places, is if you ever call 911, don't hang up. Just talk to the person if it's an accident and be like, "I apologize, I didn't mean to call you." Because if you call and hang up, they usually escalate it and get extra nervous. They're like, "Oh, why'd this person call and hang up right away?"
Because it could be a thing where it's like, yeah, like, someone's being held hostage and they got a call out, but then, got the phone taken away and hung up before they could talk. And it could be a real reason.
Yeah. I understand the logistics behind it. But the one day my phone was in my pocket and I was listening to a podcast or music, whatever. So my go-to is I pull my phone out of my pocket to turn the volume up. I just have my finger on what is presumably in my brain, the volume button, and I just keep tapping it until it gets louder. And then, other than this one time where I guess on Androids, or at least Pixels, if you would keep pressing the power button rapid fire, it's like 5 or 6 presses in a row. That's the emergency call out for SOS or like 911 thing. So my phone's in my pocket. I'm trying to turn the volume up on something. And all of a sudden it starts going whoop, whoop, and making like crazy noises. I pull it out of my pocket. The flashlight light is strobing.
Oh.
And it's set, and like looking at my phone, it was like dialing 911 or dialing emergency or something. So because I was outside doing stuff, I made the rookie mistake of I panicked and hung up. And then I just stood in my driveway for the next 5 or 10 minutes. And I was just waiting for cops to come to like talk them back down afterwards. Because in my brain, I was like, I don't want to call a second time and be like, I accidentally called the first time. But like, even knowing better, as I was like 39, 40, like a full adult, I was like, I think the better move is just to ignore this like it never happened.
Just move on, yeah.
And that was the day I looked into like, oh yeah, there is SOS mode. And I turned it off immediately after, because it definitely seemed like the type of problem I would have again down the road somewhere.
Yeah. You bringing that up did remind me that I have almost done the exact same thing. Because I think some phone I had at some point, and it might have even been Android, because now I've switched over to iPhone stuff now, but I can't remember if it was pre the Switch or not. But anyway, there was some phone I had at one point that for some reason it was just very easy to press the buttons when it was in my pocket. And I remember one time I pulled the phone out and I looked down at the screen, and the screen was lit up, and I was surprised. And it was like in the process of initiating SOS mode, but I had like needed to press the button like one more time or something before it dialed. Okay. And then I like freaked out, right? Like, oh my God, I almost called 911 without even knowing. So that was pretty scary, but yeah, I didn't end up actually dialing that time. But that's terrifying. I feel like I don't like talking on the phone. Like, phone calls are a real like nerve-wracking thing for me, and I always have to psych myself up before I have to make a phone call. Just like stupid mundane things, right? Like scheduling a dentist appointment. Like, okay, that's gonna take hold all day to psych myself up for that. So imagine if I had to call 911. That'd be like, I need a week to prepare.
Well, especially like if you actually have to call, from all the murder TV shows I've watched and from the familial time that is not not the interesting story. Like they ask so many questions, and like I had to call to get someone to go someplace else basically. And I called and they were like, "Well, what's the situation?" And I was like, "I don't know. I was told to call you. I'm trying to do the best I can here." "Oh, well, is the door unlocked?" "I don't know." "Oh, well, is the person breathing? Did someone try to give him CPR? Or someone do this?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like the first words out of my mouth are, "I am nowhere near this location. I know someone there needs help. Can you just drive your ass over there?" Basically.
And they're just following a checklist, basically, like asking all these questions. Yeah.
And then even the times that like, they're like, "Okay, we're like," because right away they're like, "What's your emergency?" So my thing is, this is X is the emergency at Y location. Please go there. And they're like, "Okay." And like it was a higher emergency. And they're like, "Okay, what's your name?" And then like I'm trying to calmly tell them, they're like, "Okay, and what's your phone number? And are we going to your address?" And I'm like, "No, I told you the address you're going to." Like, I'm sure they have the script they have to read back through to like retype everything in, but it really seems not geared towards if you're in an actual like stress death situation.
Yeah.
Like they waste like 2 or 3 minutes even trying to like, get too much information. I don't know. I don't know if I have answers. It's a project.
You called in expecting like the movie version of 911, and you got like the real life, like a person's typing into a computer version.
Yeah,
It's like what are we doing?
Like if I drive through Burger King and I'm like, "Can I have a number 5, like large?" They go, "Okay," and then just like I pull up to the window, my food's there. I expected the same of like, X emergency is at Y location. I expected them to just go, "Okay, thanks," and that'd be the end of it.
See,
I didn't expect like a 10-minute dissertation on like, "Oh, well, what's this? Oh, is the street unlocked? Is the road plowed? Is there this? Is there this?"
so you must have way better fast food joints, because for me, I pull up and I say, "Can I get a 5, large with a Diet Coke?" And they're like, "You want a number what?" I have to go 5, and they're like, "You want it?
No
what
place
size
does that anymore. That's bullshit.
What size did you want?" I said large. Okay, and to drink, I said I wanted a Diet Coke. Oh, okay, yeah, that's right, Diet Coke.
No place does that. You're lying.
I'm telling you, we just maybe our fast food's just not up to snuff. But these people out here, they ain't hearing nothing. That's what I'm saying.
Whenever I go for fast food, it's "Welcome to Taco Bell," and I say, "Mobile order for Toby, please," and they go, "Great, come around." And that's it. That's the whole conversation.
Now, actually, the real answer for me now is yes, exactly. You order on your phone, and then you either pull up and just have to say your name, or even better, you pull up and you park in one of the little parking spots, and someone just walks food out to your car, and the only interaction you have with that person is saying thank you, and it's beautiful.
So this is the last random bullshit food story, and then we're gonna start the actual show. So the one like the Wawa that's around here, like gas station food chain thing, all of them when COVID started put little like food stands outside where you order the food, like in the building, but like next to the little kitchen area.
Oh yeah.
Where it says like, "Pick up your mobile order here," and there's a nice rack. They put their little name tags with the stickers, so you always find your food. More times than not, if I pre-order food at those places, they will not put it on that rack.
Oh,
and I already paid for it. They don't put it on the rack. They put it behind the counter. And then I have to wait in line to ask the person for my food still. And sometimes they hide it behind a different counter where they say, "No, you have to go over there. I'll have someone come over and hand it to you." And those days are infuriating to me. And there's been many times now where I just grab the food from behind the counter or on top of the counter. And like whoever is like, no, you can't just do that. And I'm like, "No, it's mine." And I walk out.
I just did it.
Yeah, I paid for it. Get the hell out of here with this.
I've run into that same thing a lot. I feel like, where it's like they put in these awesome systems during the pandemic, and then I'm sure they're understaffed, and I'm sure it's like hard to keep up with, but then it's just like they just don't do them anymore. Yeah, like because any place where the to go pickup order stuff is not near the counter but is sort of more out in the lobby area, I feel like those places have just stopped using them, because it's like, well, I'm not gonna leave the counter to go put this food out there because I'm busy is what I assume the reasoning is. But yeah, that's very frustrating. I like the ones where it's like sort of there's a side behind the counter they can get you, but then you can also get to it from the the front of the counter, so you can sort of skip the line, but they don't have to leave the back. That's sort of like, yeah, working together. We can do this.
Teamwork.
All right, we'll jump into the episode here.
Speaking of teamwork, how about some Kamen Riders?
we do talk about Kamen Rider on the show. Today we're going to talk about Kamen Rider gavv episode 26. And this is, it's okay that we rambled for a bit longer than normal today, I think, because this is the continuation of the episode from last time that is all about Lage 9. And Lage 9 kind of, learning about the human world and finding out that humans aren't all bad.
He's doing Shoma's quest from the first 4 episodes of what is humanity. Once again, restarting that loop for episodes 25, 26, probably 27 and 28.
Yeah, it does feel that way. I didn't hate this episode, but of the 26 episodes, I think this is my least favorite. It sort of is like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't in the quite right mode for it. But I feel like a lot of the beats that they're hitting here, we got in the first episode of this arc. Like, I kind of already sort of knew that Lage 9 was, feeling for this kid. Like, because a big chunk of the episode, right, is Lage 9 leaning into helping this kid and kind of seeing his younger brother in this kid and commiserating with this kid about losing something important to him. And all that's very cool, but that is, I feel like I got the gist of that last episode, and there's some scenes in this episode that are so mind-numbingly slow for a series that normally is like super fast cuts in action. Like when he's eating the pudding, like when he goes and sits on the bench with the boy and he eats the pudding for the first time, there's like an extended like 13-second bit where he's like takes a bite of pudding, thinks about it for a second, and was like, that's good stuff.
It reminds me of Clerks specifically, and not the moments when like Jay and Silent Bob lean against the wall and make comments to people, but there's a lot of interstitials with the two of them just hanging against the wall as like scene trans whatevers.
Transitions?
Thank you, that word. Yeah. I don't know why that was a tough one. I was gonna say translucence. But like they use like, or interstitials, I guess is a good one too. But like they use them as like the weird breakups for like each arc or each segment. And all I could think of was like, it seemed one of those things where they're just chilling on the bench, looking at each other, like enjoying their little pudding jar cup drinks together because it was that little kid's favorite.
Yeah. It definitely, it had that vibe for sure. Like I said, I didn't hate it. It was just, it felt like things were like, it felt like we were like slowing things down and taking things pretty slow and like introducing concepts that I was sort of already on board for, like it seemed like this was the real big episode for like, no, Lage 9's a good guy now and he's friends with Sachika. And I was like, I kind of already thought he was after last episode. So, it is what it is, but it's still, I enjoyed bits and pieces of it. And the one thing I really did enjoy was Lage 9 sort of being angry about the Granute, with the Granute as sort of the stand-in. So the episode opens with that, kind of picking up the fight that we saw at the end of the last episode, and we find out that the Granute sort of like knew of Lage 9's brother, and it heard about him and kind of calls him weak in this exchange. And the fact that he like defends his brother and he's like, no, he's just a good kid, and then he's ready to like murder this Granute because of that. I thought that was really cool.
Well, even like before that, real quick, but you have to do the pudding payoff. So like, if he didn't eat pudding, if he hadn't learned to share pudding with friends with the little kid, they wouldn't have had the pudding party at the end of the episode to make it the same thing.
That's true. And I guess he has to like pudding because he's the pudding rider too, right? Like, we have to make him like pudding. So that does check out.
Yeah, so like the him and Sachika friendship thing, I think is fun because at least for part of it, because they wrote her in a way where she was just immediately accepting of the situation. Like I made the joke last week, like, oh, she's just the Granute human trainer now, and that's her whole role. Towards the beginning, when her and Lage 9 were having their little spat about the kid wants help again, and then the kid's like, I'm just gonna go, I'm leaving, I don't care, I'll do it myself. And Login kind of storms out, and he's like, "Whatever, I'll do whatever I want to. This sucks." Sachi like grabs him, and she's like, "What's your problem now?"
Yeah.
Like, she's right on to him. Like all he ever does is mope and complain and bitch about everything. So I thought that was super funny. And then at least
in that same vein, she like slaps his back at one point. He's like trying to leave, and she's like, and she just like slaps him in the back. Like it was a very like sisterly thing to do of like, you're frustrating me right now and I don't have time to deal with it, so we'll deal with it later.
So I thought those were good. And then it's very tropey in media, but like halfway through the continuation, or like getting him to actually go help the kid, was they were doing their usual bullshitting about humanity, and Sachi tells Loggy 9 like, "Hey, you need to work more today," and he's like, "Yeah, I guess," and she like looks at him and she's like, "Well, since we never actually finished that last job, and that kid still needs, we still haven't found his happiness, that's really like what you should be doing today." And he kind of like grunts at her, and she goes, like, it was just funny because she goes, "Well, I'm your boss though, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess so." And she's like, "Right. So as your boss, I'm telling your job today is go help that kid again." And he kind of like rolls his eyes and laughs, or like smirks or whatever. And like, that's like one of the best stupid tropes where people are just like, "Well, just so you know, I'm in charge of you today. So ha ha ha, you don't want to do this thing, but now you're going to go do it." And the person just is like, "Oh, shucks, I guess you got me with that one. That was clever."
I like that it's only taken him like a day or two in their time to figure out that you shouldn't mess with Sachika. Like, she runs a very tight ship over there. I think
it's fun. Like no one really argues with her either.
No,
like
one
I mean,
does,
like Shoma's way too polite, and he obviously respects his best buddy who gives him all the snacks and stuff. But even like when Hanto says, or when she tells Hanto stuff, he always listens. And now Login 9's like, "Yeah, I guess whatever you say, that's cool." And then she's just like, just run her little happy business.
I do think that segment of the like, I'm the boss of you thing, I liked it from her perspective, but it was a little like, I felt like Login should already, because this thing is like, how come I should care about, some humans' problems? I was like, yeah, but I feel like we already established why you should, because of Shoma and all this stuff, right? Like we already went through this with you. It feels like we're sort of regressing a little bit. It was like, shouldn't you know the answer to this already? But that's minor. But yeah, I love the Sachika angle of that.
And it's funny because like while everyone else is getting their new personalities and everything, I like that Shoma and Sachika's friendship for at least like the past couple episodes is literally just them eating together. Like every one of their scenes is just him having snacks with her. And then randomly, like, he'll fight at the end with the snacks. But it's really just him eating. Like, they had the cake and ice cream party where she was, like, feeding him snacks to get more good cheeses again. They all had pudding together later, and it's just those two eating together again. Like, all those two do anymore is just kind of eat and bullshit with each other.
The one from this episode's amazing because he stumbles in like he's about to pass out, and she runs and she grabs just a ready-made ice cream cone for him.
Yeah,
like, I got this here. Just like, man, to have that in your life, that's got to be perfect. You gotta lock that down while you can, Shoma. I really liked the boy Koji a little bit more in this episode than I did last episode. Last episode he was kind of a blank slate. We didn't know too much about him, but in this point we find out a little bit more about his backstory, I guess, in creating his Kabuto
why he wanted
boy.
to be the sugar man himself.
Yeah, and I really liked that. And he, at one point he's like, I'd rather die than see someone else use Kabuto Boy's image.
Steal my VTuber.
Yeah, I was like, hell yeah, he's ready to die for his VTuber model. Like this kid's great. He's gonna go places in the world. So that was fun. I liked that, and getting to see him like do his little Kabuto Boy thing at the end was nice too. Even though he uses the cheapest desktop mic I've ever seen.
That's what I rolled with for a long time too. When you're a VTuber, no one cares. They're all about the cartoon boy or girl or shark or whatever the fuck else is out there right now.
Yeah, it feels like Kabuto Boy needs to add some boob physics, I think, to his model to really get people into it. I like that he also is like
going.
He does, yeah. He also was like, nobody at my school knows that I'm Kabuto Boy. I can't let him know. Like, dude, you're gonna be popular. You're gonna be famous.
I guess it kind of ruins the vibe. So speaking of that, I've gone a very long time with really no one in the world around me, like physical world around me, knowing I do internet things. Like it's
Okay.
pretty much like my trade secret. We talked about this before. The other day, I went out with new people, and the one guy was like, either someone said that I did YouTube things, or we were talking about something else, and he's like, "Yeah, you look like a YouTuber I watch."
What?
And I was like, no, I don't know, man. I was like, bald
wanna
head,
guess.
beard, generic face, and you won't
I
be
wanna
able to
guess.
guess because I don't remember who he said. I would have
okay.
said like Northern Lion or
Northern
Vsauce or
Lion
whatever.
was you're 100% Northern Lion. Yeah.
So maybe he said it and I didn't hear him, but he was like, "Yeah, the beard guy, bald, plays so blah 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 game," and I was like, "A, it's definitely not actually me that you think you saw. I can almost confirm that to you." And I was like, "B, like for real though, like I look very generic. Like don't, it's just whatever." But it's like, but maybe that was my chance for fame too.
Dude, I had an exact.
Me and Snack Boy, we're dropping the ball here.
Yeah, you really are. I had an exact same experience when I was on vacation, where we stopped at a random gas station in the middle of nowhere. This tiny little, like, not even really like a small town. Like there was like maybe like 4 houses and then this gas station. And we go in, and it's one of those where like the bathroom's locked type of deals. So you have to get the key from the counter and stuff. So like, I walked up to the lady and said hi and asked for the key, and we got it, and we came back out and told her thank you and like whatever. And then my mom went in to the gas station after I did. And the ladies, I guess, that were behind the counter were like, is he that guy from YouTube? And my mom's like, yeah, I don't think so. And they're like, oh, he looks just like, and they couldn't think of the name of who they were thinking about. But they were saying that I looked just like a cooking YouTuber, except the guy on YouTube that they were thinking of has a beard. So I looked like that guy, but with no beard. And I spent the next hour of the drive being like, who the hell could that possibly be? I couldn't think of anyone. And it's like, I have no idea who I would look like with a beard that is a cooking YouTuber. But these random people in the middle of nowhere were convinced that I was this person. And now you're thinking about it too. You're trying to figure it out.
I am.
It's very confusing. But hopefully that person is cool, because these people thought that I was him.
There you
go. Let's see what else happens in this episode.
All the evil doctors
Koji.
hung out for a little bit.
Yes, exactly. Let's talk about Hanto and his whole thread. He starts out by visiting Suga. That's where we see he was collapsing in pain from using his bitter chocolate last time around. So he went to get checked out by Dr. Suga, and Suga's he's gonna work on the dark chocolate a bit more, which I think probably means make them even more painful for Hanto. But Hanto refuses to go back to Shoma's Gochizos. He's that anti-Shoma right now, Toby.
It's not even that. He's officially hooked on drugs now. He has officially decided that the dark candies are better than the natural, all organic, free range, cage free Shoma Gochizos themselves.
They really hammer home the drug dependency analogy here as well, because he leaves Suga's and he's like about to fall down from the pain. He was like, these are the only thing that'll help me. And then he's like, oh, but maybe they're making it worse. It's like, yep, that is the analogy we're making here.
Yeah, like they're once again going back to like, these are like, drugs are bad and they tentacle your heart and make you weak and hate everything and everything else.
Yeah. Suga's looking pretty shady though. And then Suga later gets visited by Nielv, who stops by. Not really sure why Nielv comes by, but they compare some notes and do their normal
and say, hey, you're like me, but here and there and all the things.
Yeah. Suga always seems very open with his research with Nielv. He volunteers that he's making his own Gochizo, which is interesting. And Nielv seems very curious about the whole thing. But then I think the point of that is interesting is that Suga says that he likes Hanto because he's a potential savior, which it felt like it was really off the wall to me. I'm not sure what he's a savior of or why Hanto thinks, or sorry, why Suga thinks that. But yeah, Hanto's a savior
of the world.
I guess of the world, right?
Because it would be, I guess, if he's a human that can kill Granoots, that is better than a Granoot that kills Granoots. If we're trying to keep it localized to the world, so then like Shoma can go back to his home planet at the end if he has to, but Valen's still there.
I guess so. He's a savior. Yeah, that line made me wonder, like, what Suga's goals are. Like, it seems like just it was kind of evil. Obviously, he's making these dark shomas and stuff, but it's like, but you're trying to power up a savior. I don't know. Maybe his ultimate goal is like takeover of Granoot World. Maybe that's what he wants to do.
That could be,
yeah.
Or at least like save the Granoot World from the drugs.
Maybe. I still don't think his intentions are pure from any angle here, but I don't know. It's interesting.
With the Valen eating the dark Shoma snacks, like as part of the ending piece with him, at least, when at the end he like kind of sneaks back to Suga and looks around the lab to, I guess, try to get some sort of healing power snacks, whatever. And he sees like all the dark shomas bouncing around, and Suga's like, here's a good cheeser for you, and here's a good cheeser for you, and like, go knock yourself out, guys. Valen made the face like in the Futurama when they realize Slurm comes from like snail poop, basically. And basically he had this really like weird good look on his face of like, oh my god, I'm eating shomas kind of deal. Like, like his face and the realization of like what he's actually doing was fantastic too.
That is good. Yeah, he gets the big reveal there at the end with the dark shomas, and that's the first time too we've seen two dark shomas at once, which is fun.
Yeah, like he's obviously he's spawning them like crazy. It's not just like one dies and then he makes a new one. He's definitely working on like a shoma factory.
It seems like it. Yeah, I do hope we at some point get the panning shot over the army of dark shomas. Like, I just want him to turn them into like putty style enemies, and there's just a zillion of them. That'd be great.
I mean, it's definitely possible. It's definitely set up for that at this point, where we're gonna have the dark shoma army. I feel like, and maybe that's what he's the savior of. Maybe Suga is training, I guess, Valen to defeat the dark army that he's accidentally building by trying to make all these new treats or something. Like,
could be
something along those lines.
Hard to say. All right, yeah. So we have a little cliffhanger there to lead us into next episode. I think that's most of episode 26 here. Any other thoughts on the episode?
Well, the other kind of fun, decent things was when Laga 9 gets in his fight to like redeem his brother arc. He catches what seems to be like a huge punch to the face, and he just kind of stands there and smiles at it, and then does his henshin while there's like a fist in his face, like slow motion-ish. I thought that was actually like a really sick henshin.
Yeah, that was actually really cool. You're right.
That was good. And then we got ice cream cake form.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Shoma.
Yeah.
Because from eating that shitty ice cream cake last week and Sachika just pumping him full of ice cream and cakes and everything else, he got ice cream cake form, or ice cream caking, or however we're gonna talk about this. But I thought that, like, it's just like a little tweak to it, where when he first went to ice, because he always seems to go to Blizzard Sorbet first at this point. So I feel like the other forms are kind of dead. But this time, when he won his dumb jackpot thing, he turned into ice cream cake and not just ice cream. So he still got his two little helper buddies, but he got to do like his freezy moves with the cake stuff. And I thought it was fun when he won jackpot, the jackpot spinner thing on his belt, that one of his helper buddies went massive and the other went tiny. And then but like Shoma still worries about him. He's like, "Oh my god, are you okay? Like, are you good?" And they did all the fun Shoma ice cream things.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was probably the highlight of the episode for me. Was the giant guy and the little guy, and just like stomping on the agents was awesome, and then stabbing the agent's shin was great with the little guy. That was really fun. I continue to love all of those forms. Like the caking form is great. The ice cream form is amazing. And yeah, combining them by just giving him the cake sword when he's in the ice cream form is genius. That's great. A perfect,
Seems so simple.
really simple way to do that. Yeah, and it works really, really well. And that was super fun. I forgot that. Yeah, the fight scenes were pretty great here again, as always. But yeah, that henshin, and then the cake ice cream stuff was really good. The little guys even pop out, and he's like, "Oh, you're soft serve," or whatever he calls them. Like, yeah, that's great. I love that he can just spawn little guys. That would be so useful if you could just anytime you wanted just be like pop out 2 extra dudes, just an extra set of hands for something. just pop out a guy and he just goes and starts like stabbing people for you. That's genius.
But yeah, I think that would be the crux and all the things of the episode, I believe.
Awesome. Well, Toby, if you would like more of you and I, you can find that over on the Patreon. We should talk about the Patreon a little bit. Patreon.com/thecommentwriters is where you can find that. And we put up a whole bunch of bonus content over there on the Patreon. One of our favorite things to do is to watch tokusatsu, watch Kamen Rider, watch Super Sentai even, and talk about it while we're watching, make some jokes. I have referenced in the past Mystery Science Theater 3000 in terms of this. I'm told now that that's an old reference and you guys don't know what that is. But basically, it's people talking and making jokes over a program that they're watching. You can sign up and you get to watch those things right along with us for $3 a month on the Patreon. So check that out.
Maybe people understand riff tracks better.
Riff tracks, yeah, that is the newer version of Mystery Science Theater. So if you've heard of riff tracks, if you've heard of like a Let's Play, picture a movie Let's Play. That's what this is. Even Let's Plays are old now at this point, Toby. I'm just full of old references. But yeah, the Patreon's great. Check it out. We have a Discord server as well that you can join, and even a Minecraft server if you want to play some Minecraft with some like-minded people. So patreon.com/thecommentwriters. And of course, Toby, we also have an email address. So we got an email this week. I accidentally made my screen 200% the regular size. I'm going to put that back down to normal.
I thought you were going to say I accidentently deleted it. Now this would be the end of the segment.
That'd be a great ending. I accidentally deleted the email, so it's not happening anymore.
Someone emailed us, but I lost it somehow. Now we're just going to move on.
The email address is cast@commonwritersucks.com, cast@commonwritersucks.com. Our email this week comes in from our friend Shade, and Shade says, Hanto's just walking in on everybody. like it's a communal shower or something. Shade says, hello everyone, welcome back to another episode. Attention, Toby and Josh. Kamen Rider Gavv will be on break next week. Apparently a big relay race is going to take the series' time slot. So
wait, that's the fucking break? Because I was told it was a sporting event. It's just a relay race?
A relay race, yeah, which is a sporting event. Shade says, I guess it's your chance to catch up on other stuff you watch. Yeah, so I guess that's a good time as any to talk about it. Supposedly this is actually happening, unlike last time when I lied to Toby.
Many times. You've lied to me many times.
That's true. It needs to be more specific. But apparently there's no actual Kamen Rider episode next week. So we won't have a regular episode next week, but stuff will probably go up on the Patreon. So you'll see us there if you're a member of the Patreon. Otherwise, we will probably be back in 2 weeks for another main episode when Gavv returns. Shade says, that being said, let's get on to our regularly scheduled program. There's a social media update he's giving first. On the Gavcast, they all visited the Kamen Rider Diner. And there's some photos to go along with that. We've talked about the Kamen Rider Diner, I think, on the show before, but it's a restaurant with Kamen Rider themed menu items. And they're trying out, I think some dark confections and a Valen chocolate cake on the table. They all look very cute together, Toby. All the friends. And Shoma even got to sit in the Shocker throne. And let me tell you, Shoma looking like Dark Shoma rolling around IRL. It is, he's wearing all black. He's got like crazy hair that doesn't look like normal Shoma hair. And his whole vibe is different. I don't know. He's a good actor, apparently. Let me see if I can send you this picture so you can see.
He's probably an amazing actor. I trust whatever he does.
I mean, I see it every week. But look at that picture and tell me he doesn't look like Dark Shoma.
He looks like a Kingdom Hearts character.
Well,
but yes, he does look like Dark
true.
Shoma with his actual like. He has nice swoopy done hair.
Yeah,
and he's like it's like half dyed ish and half regular, and it's a very good chair. It's a good look.
Yeah, and he looks confident. Like he weirdly looks confident. He's like, why are you not like stumbling around looking for ice cream? Shade goes on and says, since we're not getting an episode next week, the Toei Tokusatsu fan club has us covered. They've just announced a special Kamen Rider gavv graduations. You heard it right, not just Gotchard. Gavv himself will be going to school, probably to promote Gotchard graduations because it's still in theaters. Shade says, I'm not exactly sure what this is about, but it's most likely going to be very funny. Then Shade goes on and gives us some producers blog tidbits. I guess the blog talks about Lage9's outfit. He started to wear outfits with bright colors in contrast with his darker outfits from the earlier episodes, giving a different impression of him. They also questioned if these clothes are generated by the Mimic Key, the human disguise device. Oh, okay. So if the clothes are coming from the device itself, I guess they're not answering that question. In quotes, maybe the clothes are generated by the Mimic Key. Even Granoots want to be fashionable.
Everyone wants to be fashionable. That makes sense.
Yeah, why not? Listen, if I could just like spawn clothes that like fit perfectly and make me look cool, and I didn't have to do any work in the process, that seems great. I'm into that. Shade says, next they talk about how they made the VTuber model. These were actually created by the students from the Tokyo Communication Arts College because the director for this episode taught at the college a few times before. These were also the college students that helped with the CGI renders for the chemis from Gotchard. So there you go.
I remember that reference.
I do too. The director for this episode also directed Vram's debut, and he confirms that his job is to make Vram look like the coldest MFer on Granoot Earth. Shade says, I'm only half joking. He really did say he tried to make Vram look as cool as possible. The director's theme for the episode was to make Lage9 look cool. The scene where he transforms after receiving a blow from an agent, which wasn't in the script, was also a special touch. Well done, if that wasn't scripted, and the director just decided in the shooting to do that. That's great. He said he searched for the angle which would make Lage9 look the coolest. Then they talk about ice cream cake whip soldiers. The introduction of these guys weren't in the initial design phase, which is why there are no toys of them. So they're the results of the production crew being more creative than Bandai. Like, seriously, why didn't they think of the ice cream cake? Extra trivia, because we've reached the end of the blog. The preview for gavv episode 27 was actually leaked before episode 26 even aired. It's funny because some intern probably just forgot to unlist the preview on YouTube a random weekday. So someone's getting fired. I hope not. I hope no one's getting fired over random previews for Kamen Rider episodes. The stakes aren't that high.
And they might be. Let's not get out of hand. Maybe definitely like a week off. A stern warning.
Yeah,
you can't be doing this. You can't just be letting them go all the time, Josh.
Come on, man.
Aren't the episode previews basically at the end of the episode anyway?
Yeah.
So what does it matter? Yeah, who cares?
Who cares? Shade says, anyway, that's it for today's episode. Although Josh's story about him traumatizing his daughter with Spider-Man got me thinking, all of the Kamen Rider and Super Sentai you've seen so far, what would you consider suitable or unsuitable for a child to watch?
Black Sun suitable.
Mind you, 6 to 8 year olds are supposed to be the target demographic for these shows. Yeah, Black Sun. Yeah,
suitable. O's unsuitable. XA suitable.
Yeah, X8. I think our show we've watched that's the most suitable is X8. I think that Geats would. I think that would start to get boring maybe for like a younger kid.
I feel like just to use the current one, like showing a kid gavv. I feel like that can go one of two ways. Either they learn like drugs are bad from it, and that's like they're there to keep kids off drugs program.
Sure, yeah.
Or they're like, wow, those gummy candies look sick. You can get candies that make you turn to fun monsters, blah 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 blah, and just backfires and goes the wrong way.
Yeah, I could go either way. I mean, like just like the real D.A.R.E program, it often led kids to drugs. So maybe that's
there's a shocking amount of people that say that program did the opposite thing of what it was supposed to.
Yeah. I mean, how many like drug heads do you know that like ironically wear a D.A.R.E shirt now too? Like,
is D.A.R.E even still a thing? Like for those that don't know, D.A.R.E is an acronym for
Drug Abuse Resistance Education.
Yeah, there you go. I was actually gonna guess the letters but that lines up. But basically, when we were like in middle school, they're like, "Hey, drugs are bad. Don't do drugs." And some classes passed around like samples of drugs, not for you to take them. But so it could be like, this is what weed looks like. Stay away from weed. And at least in my generation, I felt like a lot of people just like it. It was like a fear tactic, and like it didn't work for anybody. I feel like it's really just like the main result of that.
Yeah, the thing I remember from D.A.R.E was like, like I feel like I like went in thinking that all drugs were equally terrible. And that you would take them and you would instantly die as like a kid having heard, just like nothing about drugs really. But then I think D.A.R.E is the thing that taught me like, oh, not all drugs are created equal. Some are way safer. And like the worst thing that they could tell me about like, about like smoking pot was like, oh, it's a gateway drug. Like, wait, so it's not bad, but the other drugs are bad? And like kind of that's the answer, right? Like, and I remember being like, wow, they probably shouldn't have told me that. Like, it feels like information that they should have phrased in a different way. I don't know. But it looks like D.A.R.E's still around. There's still a D.A.R.E website. And let me see if they're running any upcoming events.
I haven't seen any shirts for a long time. To go to that original point, I remember having seeing the shirts when I was growing up. I don't remember seeing anyone young or old wearing them ironically for a long time.
They are doing D.A.R.E mentor officer trainings a lot. They do like one a month, it looks like. There's one coming up in my state. So yeah, D.A.R.E is still very much a going concern.
Interesting.
Yeah. Just don't listen, kids. Don't go to D.A.R.E. Just watch Kamen Rider gavv. That's all you need to know about the dangers of drug use.
Yeah. Or watch gavv on drugs, and then maybe you'll learn some life lessons that way too. Who can say?
Just you don't want to become an alien monster that is having to very elaborately trap people in increasingly complex Rube Goldberg-esque machines in order to get your drug fix. That's not what we want to have happen.
Exactly.
Indeed. Let's see. Other shows I think would be. I'm trying to think if there's any other writer show that is like more suitable for children that I have seen. I really think X-Aid's like my main winner so far.
I think only once they showed the gross surgery. I feel like one time they might have showed something.
Maybe.
But other than that, it's fake surgery and overall a pretty happy, enjoyable story, minus the worst Christmas of all time.
I do think kids. Oh, the Christmas one, I forgot. Kids will be pretty into Gotchard with the chemis. That's basically Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
So that would be pretty good. Yeah. Just don't start the kids with Kuga. Just whatever you do, don't show your kids Kuga. They don't deserve this. And a Sentai, I'm assuming the answer for Sentai is just they're all amazing for kids, right? They're all great.
Yeah, I mean that definitely seems like the more kiddie show of the two overarching shows.
I think that is wholly fair. Yeah. All right, Shade, thanks very much for the email. If anyone out there would like to send an email, once again, the email address is cast at commonwritersucks.com. You can send in emails about whatever you want, anything that's on your mind that you would like to tell Toby and I. Please send those along.
If you had D.A.R.E training and decided to start using drugs, let me know.
let us know if D.A.R.E works or not. Yeah, exactly. Also, I will extend my offer once again that I brought up last time around. If you are out there and you're not a Patreon member currently and you want to be for free for a month, please review us, give us a rating on whatever platform you're listening on, and send us an email to cast@commonwritersucks.com with proof that you did that, and I will send you a gift code for 1 month of our bonus content on Patreon. We'd be happy to have you, and we hope you stick around, but if you want to watch it all in that month and get out while the getting's good, that's perfectly fine. You can do that too. So that's it for us, I think, Toby. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you on the internet?
On Twitter, it's Life of Tobes. On YouTube, it's Tobes Plays. And on Retro Achievements, it's Tobes Plays as well.
And for me, it's over on Blue Sky. I am at meek.lol on Blue Sky. And the show is on Blue Sky as well at commonwritersucks.com. And we hope you do review us on all the places. We hope you subscribe in all the places on YouTube and wherever else that you get your podcasts from. That always helps us out quite a lot. So, like I said, we will not be back next week because Gav is taking the week off. But if you miss us, join up with the Patreon, and you can catch up with us in Discord and in our bonus content. But otherwise, we'll be back in a couple weeks to talk about episode 27. And we hope that you join us back then, too. Peace.